Hello, my dear students. Then now I would like to explain you the payment of GST. Here, under the GST regime, the very important aspect is payment of GST. As the GST has been introduced to replace the all indirect taxes, now it has become the main source of income to the government. So therefore, here it is essential to know about the payment of GST. Here, every registered dealer who is supplying the taxable goods or who is supplying the taxable services is liable to pay the GST to the government. The supplier of the goods or services collects the GST from the recipient of the goods or services. So the whatever the GST which is collected by the supplier from the recipient, so after making the input tax credit adjustment, the net tax liability of the supplier has to be paid by the supplier to the government or has to be deposited by the supplier to the government within a specified period mentioned by the Act. So the registered dealer making the taxable supply of goods or services or both is liable to pay the GST. Section 49 of the CGST Act deals with the payment of GST. The Section 49 and the rule of Chapter 9 of the CGST Act are go hand in hand to explain the GST. Rule 85, Rule 86, Rule 87 also explain the payment of GST. Section 49, subsection 1 to 9 also deal with the payment of GST. Here, before going through the Rule 85, Rule 86 and Rule 87, first I would like to explain you how the payment of the GST, the liability of how the GST liability, the GST amount, the payment of the GST is determined. The very important one here, the GST liability is based upon the information provided by the registered dealer through GST return 1 and the information provided through GST return 3. So while explaining GST returns, I explained you GST return 1 deals with the outward supply, that is the sales, the supply of goods or the supply of services or the supply of both. Based upon GSTR 1, the GST liability is determined. That is the base for the determination of the GST liability. So GSTR 1 contains what? It contains the outward supply. So based upon that outward supply, the GST payment is determined. This is a very important point that you have to keep in mind. And coming to the next one, here the payment of the GST is made on self-assessment basis. It means the value assessed by the registered dealer as per him and the rate applied by the registered dealer as per him. So based upon that, the payment is made by the registered dealer to the government. So after payment of the GST, the concerned proper officer verifies whether the valuation is made by the registered dealer is correct or not, and the rate which is applied by the registered dealer is correct or not. In case of excess, the refund is made to the registered dealer. In case of deficit, the amount is recovered from the registered dealer. So therefore, you can say the payment of GST, it is what it is based upon the self-assessment made by the registered dealer. Then coming to the next point, this is regarding again payment. Here, what is that? Payment is nothing but it is amount paid by the supplier to the government, or the amount deposited by supplier to the government. And here how he deposits? Based upon the his tax liability as per GSTR 1 and less input tax credit net tax liability. So based upon that, he deposits the amount to the government. So, and here this deposit is always made online. Online basis the payment has to be made. There is no any payment of offline payment. There is only online payment. The payment is made through GST portal, common portal. There is a one common portal, GST portal, or can say there is one common website. Through that website, the payment has to be made by the registered dealer to the government. And whenever we are going to discuss regarding the payment of GST, we need to know about three important electronic ledgers maintained. Every registered dealer has to maintain three electronic ledgers. Those are here electronic liability ledger he has to maintain, electronic credit ledger he has to maintain, and electronic cash ledger he has to maintain. Only after maintaining these three accounts he can pay GST to the government. Here Rule 85 deals with electronic liability ledger, whereas Rule 86 deals with electronic credit ledger. Then Rule 87 deals with electronic cash ledger. Now I will explain one by one what are the contents of the electronic liability ledger, and contents of the electronic credit ledger, and contents of the electronic cash ledger. So before starting the each ledger, first I would like to explain you what is this electronic ledger. Electronic ledger means ledger accounts to be maintained by a registered dealer in common portal of the GST. Here ledger means what? The summary of the transactions belonging to the same category. So these are maintained electronically online. So such a ledgers are called as what? Electronic ledger. The electronic ledger is defined as summary of the tax liability, summary of the input tax credit, and summary of the cash deposited by registered dealer to the government. So this is the meaning of the electronic ledger. Here first we will go to the first one, electronic liability ledger. Rule 85 Chapter 9 of the CGST Act and Section 49 of the CGST Act deal with the electronic liability ledger. So under Section 49, subsection 7, 8 and 9, these deal with the electronic liability ledger. As the word itself indicates, liability ledger. Electronic liability ledger, this is the first ledger which is to be maintained by the registered dealer. It contains the total tax liability of the registered dealer. What is the total tax liability of the registered dealer? So not only tax liability, even it contains the other liability to be paid by the registered dealer to the government. Other liabilities means fines, penalties, etc. Interest, fines, penalties. These are the other liabilities. So here, electronic ledger contains the total tax liability and the other payments such as interest, fines and penalties. Here, form GST PMT 01. PMT means payment. PMT means payment. Electronic liability ledger has to be maintained as per the GST payment 01. Or you can write only one also. 01. As per this format, the electronic liability ledger has to be maintained. Here, say ledger means definitely we are going to find debit and credit. So, what we are going to find in case of the debit side of the electronic ledger? So here, electronic liability ledger, it is a ledger, electronic liability ledger. So ledger means debit, credit. Here, in case of electronic liability ledger, debit side we are going to find total tax liability and other payments. In which form? In GST PMT 01. Here there are two parts. So this is part 1 and this is part 2. So in PMT 1, so what we are going to find? Total tax liability of the registered dealer. Whereas in the PMT 2, part 2, so we are going to find other payments such as interest, then fines, then penalties or any other recoveries are found in other payments. So in part 1 we are going to find total tax liability, not net tax liability. It is total tax liability we are going to find. For example, here in GSTR 1 ಒಳಗೆ ಏನಿರ್ತೈತ್ರಿ ಔಟ್ವರ್ಡ್ ಸಪ್ಲೈ ಇರ್ತೈತಿ. ರಿಟರ್ನ್ಸ್ ಒಳಗೆ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ನೋಟ್ಸ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದು ನೋಡ್ರಿ. GSTR 1 ಒಳಗೆ ಏನಿರ್ತೈತಿ, ನಾವು ಎಷ್ಟು ಸೇಲ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದೇವೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು, ಆ ಮಂತ್ ಎಷ್ಟು ಸೇಲ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೇವೆ, ಎಷ್ಟು ಸಪ್ಲೈ ಮಾಡಿದೇವೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಐತಿ. ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು 10 lakh ಐತೆ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಇದ್ರ ಮ್ಯಾಗ 18% ಎಷ್ಟಾಕೈತ್ರಿ 1 lakh 80,000. ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ಹೆಂಗ್ ಕರಿತೀವಿ? ಟೋಟಲ್ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಲೈಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಇಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಾನಿಕ್ ಲಯಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಲೆಜರ್ ಒಳಗ ಡೆಬಿಟ್ ಸೈಡ್ ಏನ್ ಇರ್ತದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈ 1 lakh 80 ಇರ್ತದೆ. ಟೋಟಲ್ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಲಯಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಆಸ್ ಪರ್ GSTR 1. ನಾವು GSTR 1 ಒಳಗ ಏನ್ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಲ್ಲ ಅದ್ರ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಲಯಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಎಷ್ಟಿತ್ತು 1 lakh 80 ಅದು ಇರ್ತದೆ. ಇದನ್ನ ಯಾವ ಫಾರ್ಮೆಟ್ ಕೊಡ್ಬೇಕ್ರಿ? ನಾವ GST PMT 01 ದಾಗ ಕೊಡ್ಬೇಕು. ಇನ್ನ ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಒಳಗೆ ಏನಿರ್ತೈತ್ರಿ, ಎನಿ ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಅದರ್ ದೆನ್ ದಿಸ್ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಲಯಬಿಲಿಟಿ. ಈ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನು ನಾವು ಎಷ್ಟು ಕೊಡೋದು? GST ಟೋಟಲ್ ಗ್ರಾಸ್ ಲಯಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಎಷ್ಟೈತಿ 1 lakh 80. ಇದನ್ನ ಬಿಟ್ಟ ಬೇರೆದೇನಾದ್ರೂ ನಾವು ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡೋದಿರ್ತಂದ್ರೆ ಆ ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲಿರ್ತಾವ್ರಿ? ಪಾರ್ಟ್ 2 ದಾಗ ಇರ್ತಾವ. ಇದು ಇಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಾನಿಕ್ ಲಯಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಲೆಜರ್. ಇನ್ನ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟ್ ಸೈಡ್ ಏನ್ ಬರ್ತೈತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈಗ ನೋಡ್ರಿ ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಯಾವ ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಅದರ್ ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ತಿಳ್ಕೊರಿ ಏನು ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಫೈನ್ಸ್ ಪೆನಲ್ಟೀಸ್ ಏನೂ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಇನ್ನ ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಸೈಡ್ ಏನ್ ಬರ್ತೈತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ 1,80,000 ನೋಡಲಿ 1,80,000 ಒಂದು ಟೋಟಲ್ ಲಯಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಐತಿ. ಇನ್ಪುಟ್ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟ್ ಎಷ್ಟೈತಿ ಅದೊಂದು 80,000 ಐತೆ ತಿಳ್ಕೊರಿ. ಸೊ ನೆಟ್ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಲಯಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಬಂತು 1,00,000. ಇನ್ನ ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟ್ ಸೈಡ್ ಏನೇನ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇನ್ಪುಟ್ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟ್ ಅಡ್ಜಸ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದ ಎಷ್ಟು 80,000. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದ ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಎಷ್ಟಾಗೈತ್ರಿ 1,00,000. ಈ ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದ ಎಲ್ಲಿರ್ತೈತಿ ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟ್ ಸೈಡ್ ಇರ್ತೈತಿ. ಬಟ್ ಆ ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಹೆಂಗಿರ್ತೈತಿ ಹಿಂಗ್ ಗ್ರಾಸ್ ಇರಂಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಅದು IGST ಎಷ್ಟು ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿರಿ, ಆಮೇಲೆ CGST ಎಷ್ಟು ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದಿರಿ, SGST ಎಷ್ಟು ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದಿರಿ, ಇವೆಲ್ಲ ಡೀಟೇಲ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ತಾವ, ಡೀಟೇಲ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಇರ್ತಾವ. ಸೊ ಈ ರೀತಿ ಏನಿರ್ತದ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಾನಿಕ್ ಲಯಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಲೆಜರ್ ಇರ್ತದ. ಸೊ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಾನಿಕ್ ಲಯಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಲೆಜರ್ ಒಳಗ ಡೆಬಿಟ್ ಸೈಡ್ ಏನಿರ್ತೈತ್ರಿ ಟೋಟಲ್ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಲಯಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಆಸ್ ಪರ್ GSTR 1. GSTR 1 ಒಳಗ ನೀವು ಏನ್ ಸೇಲ್ ತೋರಿಸಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ ಅದರ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಲಯಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಎಷ್ಟೈತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಇರ್ತೈತಿ. ಇನ್ನ ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಹೋಗಿ ಏನ್ ಇರ್ತೈತ್ರಿ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಲಯಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಬಿಟ್ಟ ಬೇರೆ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡೋರು ಇದ್ರಲ್ಲ ಅದು ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಹೋಗಿ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ತೈತಿ ಡೆಬಿಟ್ ಸೈಡ್ ಇರ್ತೈತಿ. ಇನ್ನ ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟ್ ಸೈಡ್ ಏನಿರ್ತೈತ್ರಿ ಇನ್ಪುಟ್ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟ್ ಅಡ್ಜಸ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು, ಅದು ಹೆಡ್ ವೈಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು. ಟೋಟಲ್ ಅಲ್ರಿ ಹೆಡ್ ವೈಸ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ಬೇಕು. IGST ಎಷ್ಟು ನೀವು ಮಾಡಿದಿರಿ, CGST ಎಷ್ಟು ಮಾಡಿದಿರಿ, SGST ಇದು ಇರ್ತದ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಅನ್ನು ಹೆಡ್ ವೈಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದಿರ್ತದ. ಇದು electronic liability ledger. So this is about the electronic liability ledger. So what it contains in the first part of the electronic liability ledger, we are going to find the total tax liability of the registered dealer as per information provided in GSTR 1 and GSTR 3 in the first part. In the second part, it contains the details liability, the detail of the liabilities of registered dealer other than this information. Other than the tax liability means what? Interest, fines and penalties. Second part contains. Then coming to the next one, on the credit side of the electronic liability ledger, we are going to find the adjustment of the input tax credit and ultimate the final payment of the input tax credit. So this is about the electronic liability ledger. In my next video, I will explain you the next ledger. Still then, have a nice time. Okay, see you.